Ready for another 40 years. Today I'm going to try and make more moves on the RX7 when I do some work on it. I've got some things planned out that I want to do. Get the fuel filters changed out, both the main one and the backup one. I want to get the air filter changed. That's not too difficult. I want to see how the Marvel's Mystery Oil did on the engine. Not that I'm worried that it's locked up or things are tight, but more as a precautionary. I'm going to see how I can turn that engine by hand, then gap the new plugs, put the new plugs in. Just getting steps moving forward and try and knock a bunch of things off of my list with the RX7. It's been sitting way too long. I need to get back out on the road. I've got more things that I need to do, so getting it running and back driving around is going to be the main thing before I tackle all these other projects like the upholstery and the seats and the carpet and the PDR. Today, I want to make some moves. We've got some good weather, so I want to take advantage of it while I can. I couldn't tell you the last time this filter was changed, which is funny and scary. It's wet. It's good. I want to make sure that it turns over nice and easy. Since last week I put that Marvel's Mystery Oil in there, let it sit. I was going to let it sit for a couple of days, but it got super cold out here in the Midwest, and I wasn't going to come out here and work out in the cold. I could heat. I got a forced air heater, or I'm sorry, I got a fresh air, forced air heater. It's a mouthful. But I have one of those, and I just really wasn't wanting to mess with it, so I waited till it got warm this weekend. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over by hand. I got it in neutral, and we'll see how it goes. So I got the breaker bar already on there, breaker wrench, and the socket. We're gonna go ahead and give it a turn. And I've got all 4 plugs in right now, which means it should have full compression. It is in neutral, so I'm not fighting the transmission or anything like that. But it's turning over with no issue. I'm not even trying that hard. I got 2 fingers on it. But yeah, real simple. What was that? 3/4 inch. I'm looking at gapping the plugs because I'm getting ready to put them back in. And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know what to gap these at. So I hop on the internet, I get on RX7 forum, and sure enough, you don't gap these plugs. They're already set. I have the NKGRs, if you recall, from last week when I was putting the Marvel's Mystery Oil into spark plug holes. You get that 4 set up there, and so it's a non-gap like deal. It already comes pre-gapped, so you don't have to mess with them. Replacing those plugs with the new NKGRs went pretty easy. One of the reasons was because when I did that Marvel's Mystery Oil last week, I didn't put the plugs all the way back in. I just got them just to the point where they stopped with my fingers. The nice thing is those plugs, they still had a bit of that Marvel's Mystery Oil on there, which means it was doing what it was supposed to be doing while it was marinating. I've got 2 fill filters on this RX7. So one of them goes under the hood. It's your traditional inline fuel filter. And the other one is another inline fuel filter, but it's from the factory, which is underneath the car. I'm not sure why this one has 2. I'd have to look and see if that's a factory thing, or somebody was like, hey, this doesn't have a fuel filter. I better put one on it, not realizing this bad boy goes underneath the car because it has an exterior fuel pump as well as an exterior inline fuel filter. But this one's gonna go under the car, and I'm just gonna keep the redundancy of a second one. I don't see it being any kind of issue. I don't think it's gonna create any kind of like pressure issue or flow issue. If anything, it's a safety catch. But if you remember from last week, the gas looked pretty clean that was coming out of the tank. So I really don't have any concerns about the tank being contaminated or anything like that. very dry. Old one is a little bit bigger than the new one, but again, I'm not too worried about that. It may just be a matter of just size, not necessarily efficiency. Paying attention, this one says in, so we'll make sure that's coming in from the tank side, not necessarily going to the carburetor side. Since I picked up the big box full of a whole variety of hose clamps, I'm gonna go ahead and get 2 small ones. That way I can get this style, which I like better than the kind that just clip on. I always feel a little better with these. And of course, I always tighten them down nice and tight. Pretty easy. While I was opening up the box for the inline fuel filter that's going underneath the hood, I thought it pretty funny, not for E85 fuel. Pay attention, because that could be a problem if you're somebody who likes to put E85 in. I try not to, just with these older cars and everything the way that they're set up. They were never designed for that. So to avoid any kind of complications, I just go ahead and I put in non-ethanol fuel. I don't think this filter back here has ever been changed with how it looks, which wouldn't surprise me, because chances are I'm not the only one that didn't know this filter was back here. Now I'm sure all the RX7 community guys are gonna be like, of course we knew it was back there. But there are us folks that haven't had RX7s all our lives or forever. Now I've had this one for a while, but like I said, I did not know this was back here until I saw it. And that mother is long. There's a little gas in there too. That's funny. This one also has a directional arrow on it, which makes it very simple. So it's just a matter of making sure that you know where your gas is coming from, where it's going. The external fuel pump is right here, and that's the line coming out of it. That's the line feeding back up. So should be pretty simple. Actually, scratch that. That's the line coming out of the tank. This is the one going into the external fuel pump. So we're going to have the arrow facing this direction, just like that. I like this little spring deal. I think it's pretty ingenious to hold the fuel filter. Pretty clever. Now if I can just get it to snap on there. There we go. Yep. I could not find a socket that would fit this. It's smaller than a quarter, and I have some that are smaller than a quarter, but too big for this. And I had one that was actually even smaller. I don't remember the size, but it was too small. So it's that in between, which is always frustrating. Ready for another 40 years. Been a while since I've had this battery in the car. I double checked to make sure the wiring, so I followed the wires until I found the negative ground, and sure enough, it was the right one. That's the negative. That's the positive, which is why it's got the rubber over it, but either way, my brother did that. As a temporary, I put the wiring harness for the ignition into the car. That way I could bump it over just using this control with a screwdriver, make it real simple, not have to have the housing for the ignition mounted into the car. That was really the initial thing that toasted me driving this car 2 years ago. And that's a whole nother story about all the shenanigans I had to go through to source that. After putting the battery in, I was giving it a little bit of a test before doing any recording. I got full power, everything juiced up, cranked it over a couple of times, just bumping it. It was turning over and firing. And because I don't have any gas in the tank, I didn't want to just keep cranking it and dry running it. Everything was moving as it should, and then my 6-year-old battery pooped out. So it's one of those things where I need to decide, do I want to run up to the auto parts store, my local auto parts store is right down the street. Do I want to run over there and pick up a battery from them that's got basically a garbage warranty on it? Or do I want to wait till Monday? Today's Saturday. Do I want to wait till Monday and run up to these guys, Christian Brothers, that are a little bit further out? They're about a 20-minute drive each way, but they have a 5-year warranty, no prorate on the battery. So anytime you replace it, boom, free battery, no matter how long you've had it in that 5 years. And then when you exchange it, if you want to bump another warranty on it, it's $12. So, you know, I'm basically at a stall out here until Monday. I'm not going to change out the oil right now. You know, I do recall that it has a little bit of an oil pan leak. So I want to replace that gasket before putting new oil in it, which shouldn't be a problem for firing it up. So today was pretty successful. Got the plugs in, the filters changed on both ends, the air filter, which is like, what, 2 seconds. Putting the old ignition harness back in place. When it's time to do that housing, I'm gonna run up the Lock Doctor and see if I can get them to swap out the tumblers for me. We'll see what they have to say about that. Not too shabby of a day in the garage. Thank you for watching this week's video of Rob's Garage, where I'm working on the RX-7 and bringing it back to life. Leave a comment, hit that like button, and until next time, thanks again.